The use of the notwithstanding clause by Ontario Premier Ford has brought out the worst in armchair critics in our country. And that, considering the lowly state of public debate already, is alarming. So here goes, the 5 worst comments. And smile when you hear them. Humor is the only way to weather this episode of witless, sanctimonious bafflegab. Quote, Doug Ford's move contravenes Canada's international obligations under a 1966 UN Convention on Civil and Political Rights. Of course. And who's going to take that complaint to the UN? Turkey? Next one. This Premier has served notice that he doesn't respect other people's rights, thundered the Toronto Star. What rights? Is there a right to a certain number of councillors per votes? Really? Will we have to go through this every time the government changes riding boundaries? Next one, quote, it's time for a lesson on law and government 101, since it appears that none of those advising our Premier have thought to take on this task. Here goes. And the author goes on to talk about what they should do. She's a criminal defense lawyer, writing in the Globe and Mail. No apparent experience in anything but a courtroom, and she laid out the most haughty and puerile spanking to a public office holder one could ever imagine. After reading her article, a sane person would run out into the street proclaiming support for Brexit, for Trump, any other means to bring down the entitled. This one, the use of the notwithstanding clause really threatens 36 years of really important legal cases. Really, really? This will overturn past decisions? It's hard to believe that was a lawyer who came up with that one. So now that the Court of Appeal has granted a stay and declared the Superior Court decision was not really supportable, they used a word I used last week. It's a stretch. Does that mean that all the lawyers who wrote saying that Ford was wrong in law, and the hundreds of lawyers who signed petitions saying the court was right in the first instance, should they be disbarred for terrible judgment? Well, of course not. We have a moderate society. Which brings me to the really over-the-top public utterances. Of course, they're from the NDP opposition. The NDP has brought the level of public debate in Canada to a new low. He's a dictator. He's stomping on our fundamental rights. We need to organize in the street. This kind of talk is not only just plain silly, it brings politics into disrepute. All those chicken littles who declare the sky is falling should resign from public life. They should reconsider what they're doing in public life. All of these big words of bafflegab and sanctimonious and hyperbole and public utterances saying they're so far removed from the facts. That really has to stop in public life in Canada if we're going to get ahead. How should it stop? My advice? Just ignore them.